So we know that the book of Revelation is a book about the end times. Now, there are people who think that it was all fulfilled in the first century, but I'm not one of them. And chances are, if you're at my channel or you're interested in things that are coming, that are quickly coming our way, you don't believe it all took place during the first century either. You are looking at the end time prophecies, and if you're coming to my channel, you're specifically looking at Revelation, which is mostly what I sort of major on. I move all over the Bible, though, because the themes that show up in Revelation are, first the seeds that are planted in Genesis, Exodus, and Leviticus, and they come to full flower in the book of Revelation. So we can know the end from the beginning. So one of the most important verses in the book of Revelation is the very first verse. It says, "The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him." So this isn't the revelation of Jesus. This isn't showing us Jesus. This is a specific body of information that God gave to Jesus. Okay? The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him, to show his servants what must quickly or soon take place. So this was given to Jesus. It's a body of information about the end times. It's an end time prophecy that's told via symbols and imagery in the book of Revelation. It's layered visions that layer over one another. And the way I like to think of it is it's another way of thinking about it from the many other ways that I've talked about it in the past is what's happening is we're being plopped into the middle of a story. So a lot of people think that even though they know that Revelation isn't chronological, they treat it as though it were chronological, and that the first 3 chapters have already happened. I don't believe that. I think there's an application for the church throughout history in the first 3 chapters, but the actual interpretation for what's going on in the first 3 chapters of Revelation, where we have the letters to the 7 churches and so on, is actually part of the prophecy. So what happens is we're being plopped right into the middle of the story. We need to kind of get our bearings, see where we are, see if we can understand what's going on. It's kind of like Star Wars, or really any movie that has sequels or that has prequels where you're plopped into a situation and you have to orient yourself. And then part of the story you realize is like a backstory to things that are happening, and there's flash forwards into the future and flashbacks into the past, and that's kind of what's happening in Revelation, because there's so much information being packed into this one book that frankly I don't understand why more people who are watchmen and watchwomen who are trying to analyze end time prophecy aren't really diving into this book, because it gives us so many details about what is going to happen. I'm talking about details like you can know days when certain things are happening because we're given day counts between important events. Okay, but I'm not going to get into that because I've talked about all that in so many other videos before. But this important verse, this is the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him. In other words, Jesus is going to reveal this body of information to his servants, so that they will know the things which will quickly take place. This is a book that's written for you and me. Part of the reason I don't think we've been able to crack the code on this book until just recently is because it's written for people who are going to be alive at the end. There really wasn't any need for anybody to understand this. It's people who are going to be alive at the end, and I believe that's you and me. Jesus said that things are going to quickly take place. Once things start moving, they're going to happen so fast. And like labor pains, which is what most of the book of Revelation actually is devoted to, it's the labor pains that happen before the abomination of desolation takes place. They're the labor pains that, as you get closer and closer and closer to the time of delivery, the pains get worse and worse and worse and worse. So we're in the time of birth pangs, which means that the things that are going to be happening faster and faster and faster, eventually going rather parabolic on us and, kind of out of control. Not out of control from God's perspective, but if you're living during some of these events, you're going to feel very much out of control. There's a passage in Hebrews that tells us that we're not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together, okay, that we need to assemble even more as we see the day approaching. A lot of people have been looking at the events that are taking place in the world. You just look at this recent couple of years that we've experienced. This is a worldwide phenomena. It's not relegated to any one country or locale where we've had this, virus thing that's gone everywhere. And all over the world, there were shutdowns. What this should tell you is that we have now entered a, for reals, global control time. This is a time of global control. It's already happening. I'm not saying that we're in the middle of the beast kingdom, because we're not. But what's happening right now is the things that are going to be escalating more and more and more. And I think that over the next few months, things are going to really, really intensify. So we're looking at wars that are taking place all over the world. We're looking at what may have already been the beginning of World War III that's happening in Ukraine. We look at Europe and the war footing that many European countries are placing themselves on. We're looking at shortages and supply chain disruptions, grain shortages, and trouble getting food from one place to another. And here in the United States, if there is a problem in the trucking industry, and if you're following alternative news, you will know what I'm talking about. If there is a breakdown in the trucking industry at any level where something is not available anymore, everything shuts down. Everything. Okay, you can bring America to its knees by withholding vital components related to the trucking industry because it's trucks that bring everything to us. And we're right at this point right now. We're right at the edge of the abyss of looking into, it's stuff that we can see when you see the day approaching. Okay, we're not at the seal events yet. Those things haven't happened, but we can see that they're about ready to happen. If you've been following me, you understand, you realize from what Revelation tells us that there are two satanic, I don't want to call them empires or systems or ways that Satan works in the world. The first one is the Harlot. That's Mystery Babylon. It's the Babylonian cabal system. Okay, and it is a system. And then there's the beast. Okay, these are two actually competing systems. They're not cooperative. Okay, and this is something people have a hard time understanding. They think that the harlot is going to usher in the one world religion and be connected to the beast somehow. And no, these are two separated systems. Okay, they're separated down the middle at the sixth trumpet, which is the same thing as the day that the Antichrist goes and proclaims that he's God. Okay, that is also known as the abomination of desolation, the abomination that causes astonishment when the beast goes into the temple, proclaiming that he's God. Okay, and that's when he sets up his kingdom, which may utilize some of the stuff that the harlot has put in place, Mystery Babylon, but it's a kingdom and he is the king and he is king over kings. Okay, he is the fake Messiah who's going to rule and have a kingdom. Okay, so he rules by decree. The harlot, Mystery Babylon, is the system that we're under right now. And it's the system that's been happening basically since Babel, since the time of Babel. It's where Satan works through organizations and people and institutions and religions. And it's always very kind of behind the scenes, orchestrating events and so on. And so most people are very ignorant that this entity has existed and exists to this very day. The thing is, the harlot has now taken off of her veil. Okay, she has emerged from the shadows. Okay, we can okay, we can see a group of globalists who are wanting to have a great reset. This is the harlot, by the way. This is not the beast. Okay, the harlot is the one that's doing this. Satan is using the harlot. Satan uses both of these, but he is eventually going to get rid of this one and use only this one. Okay, the harlot, we know, is in the wilderness, which means she's demonically inspired. There's some very high-level demons that are operating through these people who are our overlords, who are running the show right now. And they've actually stepped out of the shadows, so we know they exist. Okay, this has always been the realm of conspiracy theory before now, but it is not conspiracy theory. This is the reality. This is the world we're living in. And these non-governmental organizations are going to control what happens here. Okay, so they think that they're going to be part of this deal over here. They don't know that the beast does not want to have anything to do with her. This is not the bride of the beast, okay? She's something that Satan has used throughout history and now brought her out in the open. Part of the reason I think that this system is out in the open now is so people, number one, that we can see the day approaching. Those of us who are watching can go, oh, I think I know what's happening here. I think it's these these organizations that rule over kings. And remember, the harlot rules over kings. Revelation 18 tells us that she rules over kings. She's in the wilderness. She's seated on waters. She's over the world. She's seated on kings and the peoples of the world. So it's only just recently that we've been able to see how this group has been able to control and orchestrate events throughout the world. And never minimize the power or influence of your enemy. Never underestimate your enemy. Never think that, oh, they can't do that or they won't do that. You know, as soon as you go down that path, you're going to be deceived, okay? Now, the harlot operates through deception, of course, but it's a particular kind of deception. It's actually sorcery, okay? It's spell casting, okay? A lot of people will make a big deal about the pharmakia thing, and back in the day, people used to take drugs to induce a state so that they could have demons download into them. Okay, that's, we're talking about sorcery here. So what the sorcery does is it provides continual brainwashing for people, largely through the media. Okay, so, you know, I just hope this video doesn't get censored or taken down. But the harlot uses sorcery, okay? She uses mind control, brainwashing, saying things over and over and over again, getting people thinking in a particular way or groove of thought so that they stop questioning things. They just swallow the narrative, okay? And the harlot is involved in education, educating our kids, involved in churches, seminaries, Bible colleges. Look, these people have their fingers in all the pies for media. All of them. Very few are on the fringe there that they don't have control over. They want control of the world. Here's the other thing they want. In order to have control, they have to have fewer people. And you and I are sheep. They don't care about us. Okay, they really don't. They're going to say all day long they do, but they don't. The Great Reset is for them, and it's all about how they're going to actually run the show. And they're over kings, they're over presidents, they're over premiers. They're the ones who are over them. They run the show from behind the scenes, but now we're seeing that they're actually, we know who some of these people are now. And part of their goal is depopulation. They've told us this in the past. People don't believe it. The Georgia Guidestones maintain population at, world population at under 500 million people. Well, if you've got 7 billion people on the planet right now, that's a big job to get rid of so many people. So this is who the harlot is, okay? This is who the harlot is. And right now, Satan is using the cabal, this system that's been in the shadows, that's come out of the shadows. Right now, he's using this system to pave the way for this one. And depopulation is a big part of that. That's what, like, the seals are all about, okay? The seals are not particularly the judgments of God. They are controlled by Christ. And right now, the 4 angels that are holding back the winds, which I believe sort of takes us into the book of Daniel, where the winds are stirring up the sea, and out of the sea rises these beasts. Well, once the angels stop holding back the winds, the forces, that control that, the beast is going to rise, just like the first 4 beasts of Daniel have arisen. This beast is the 7th king. And when the first seal opens, a rider on a white horse is going to come out conquering and to conquer. Okay, the 7th king is when the first seal is open, but he's going to appear at the same time that the harlot is here. But remember, the 7th king is only here for a little while, very little while. So he's going to appear over here while the harlot's still running the show. He's not running anything yet. He won't run anything until the abomination of desolation happens, when he goes into the temple of God. And actually also the same time when he destroys this system. Okay, and I've talked about that. The harlot New World Order people are going to be destroyed in a single day, on a single hour, on a particular month and year. The second woe. The second woe lasts 1 hour. Okay? The times in Revelation are literal. They're all literal. And if you believe that some are literal and some are not, your hermeneutic isn't consistent here. And I believe God is very consistent in Revelation that increments of time are all literal. They're all meant to be taken literally. Otherwise, the book isn't helpful. Okay, it's not helpful. So the 7th king is going to come on the scene, and we know that the woman is going to ride the beast. Okay, she's going to try and manipulate and influence this guy right here. But he'll have none of it. He is not going to do that, because he's going to have his own kingdom over here without her in it at all. Okay, so he's going to show up with the first seal. That will not happen until after we're in heaven. But the thing is you can see what's happening here. These people are coming out into the open. So there's going to be a pushback against the harlot. There are some people who think this is all great. There are people who are so brainwashed they don't know anything one way or the other. And there are people looking for a hero. Okay, they're looking for a hero, somebody who will put down these guys right here, the people who are part of the Great Reset, who are running this show. And that will happen. But he is not happy that these people are telling him what to do. Okay, and this is all after the rapture, after the first rapture of kings and priests, where, we see the elders seated in heaven. Okay, but right now, we see the day approaching. And when we can see the day approaching, we know that things are going to happen really, really quickly. We know that the world is going to be in need of a hero. Okay, in need of a hero to get rid of this agenda over here. Okay, now that's the first seal. He's going to come on the scene as the good guy, as the Messiah, as the Savior against this right here. Okay. So then we have a second seal. And this is when there's going to be a lot of wars and peace is taken from the earth and people kill one another. Okay, this is going to be routine, people killing one another. So we'll have wars for sure, but we're going to have people killing one another. There's going to be just death, random killing, group killings, mass murders, all kinds of really bad things in addition to the wars. Peace is going to be taken from the earth. In other words, there isn't going to be any place you can go except for perhaps little pockets where there are believers who are going to be present at that time. And there will be believers present. Peace is going to be taken from the earth. It's going to be bad. The third, and we can see, the thing is, we can see this happening now. We can see the raindrops of the approaching storm. I mean, I don't really have to tell you the details because you know this stuff. You see it on the news, you read about it. People don't have a problem with bloodshed and death. In fact, there are people who revel in it, who revel in murders. Okay? And that's going to happen. But we can see it approaching. The third thing is there's going to be famine and food shortage. And that is something we can see. The harvests have not been particularly good. There's drought in some regions and there's too much rain in another. There's wars taking place in the breadbasket of Europe where most of the wheat that's imported by African nations is grown in Ukraine. And good luck getting that to those people. There's going to be mass starvation that's happening, famines and food shortages, and food is going to be very, very expensive. I don't know if you've been to the grocery store recently. Okay, food is getting really out of control, and some people have said we only have 8 weeks left of the wheat supply, and I'm assuming that's from last year's wheat. And if this year's wheat harvest is not good, or something happens to it, or something happens to processing plants and so on and so forth, then even in America where we don't really know famine and food scarcity, that could happen right here in the United States. We can see it approaching. If it doesn't happen this year, it can happen next year. Easy peasy. Or even if we do grow the harvest, there may not be a way to get it to market. So everything starts breaking down and the wheels come off of the system. Okay, that's in the future. Right now, it's being held back. We've got 4 angels holding back this guy from riding, and he has to come out first before the rest of these things will happen. And the 4th horseman that rides is death. Okay, and he's got a buddy, Hades. Death by wild animals, death by famine, death by pestilence, death by plague. Any kind of way you can think about people dying, that's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of death taking place immediately after the rapture. We're going to talk about the order of events in just a minute. Okay? Depopulation. This is orchestrated. It's being held back. This doesn't come from God. It's not originating with him. It's originating with Satan and this harlot system that has been sort of under the surface has now come out. We can see who it is. And when the beast comes on the scene, he's going to look like the good guy because he's going to get rid of this. They don't know that, though. They think they're going to head on into the brave new world. All right. Death is the result of these seals. Okay. We can see this approaching, and when it starts to happen, you know that it's going to happen quickly. Things are going to unfold rapidly. Rapidly, like really fast. Okay, so here's the interesting thing to me. I watch a lot of videos. I read a lot. I spend a lot of time in research. I listen to people who do good research. I try not to get into sensationalism or any of that. But there are people that are not Christians, people in finance sectors, people who are preppers, people who are in, the medical system, who are not Christians. They're not believers particularly, but they can see the trajectory of this. They see where it's going. Okay, and a lot of Christians have the blinders on their eyes. They don't see where this is going. They think everything's going to be okay. And there's a lot of just regular Christians who go, yeah, but that's just this and that's just that. And then, and it doesn't affect me. I can still go to the store. Yes, things are expensive, but there's still food there, except for not enough baby formula. But hey, there still is some. But, eggs are really expensive. And, what happened to thus and such that used to be here, I used to buy all the time. Okay, so this is not getting better. Okay, I remember when the pandemic first started, people thought, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and, pretty soon we'll be out on the other side. And pretty soon, 2 weeks to flatten the curve turns into 2 years, and, multiple, injections that people have to take and so on. And it's a weird thing that normal never did return. And it's a funny thing. I could see this back in 2020, actually could see it in 2019, that things were going to have to get bad before the rapture, because you have to see the day approaching, which means you have to be able to see these horses coming at you. Okay, these are already here. They just haven't been released yet. They're here. They're waiting for the time when Jesus opens the scroll on that seal of judgment and they start writing. Okay, but they're already here. And the angels are on the earth holding back these things right here that you see. So we can see it approaching. Non-believers see all of this beginning to happen. And they see that it's coming at us like a freight train. So I'm going to just interject something here, and that is you need to have some food and water and medication at least for 6 weeks. Okay, really, everybody needs to do that. And if you haven't started, you need to start now. And it really doesn't matter what kind of food. You need it enough at least for 6 weeks. Okay, and that's really just to take us up to the time when theoretically we could be raptured if the rapture is this year. Food, water, 6 weeks. Okay, that's kind of the minimum as far as I'm seeing. If you can do a couple months, even better. And if you can afford to get a little extra so that you can share with other people, so much the better. I'm not a big prepper. I don't push people storing up years and years worth, assuming you're going to be here for a tribulation event, that people talk about 7 years. No, we're not going to be here for 7 years. There's nothing like that. You don't have to have tons of food, but it is wisdom for people to store up for a bad day. And a bad day, a bunch of them are actually coming. Once you understand the difference between the harlot and the beast, and it's funny, I listen to end time pastors who are kind of confused about this. They kind of morph them together, and the harlot's the religion, that the false prophet will be over, and it's all very confusing. They don't really have it clear in their mind that we're talking about two very different ways, dispensations, satanic dispensations that Satan is going to use, and they do not overlap. Okay? When the seventh king is here, he has to die, resurrected, become the eighth king, who is the actual beast from the sea, who, begins to have a kingdom and so on. He is here for a little while, but under duress. And he's going to come out on this side, and this system will be put down, not entirely destroyed. It's going to be fully and completely destroyed when Jesus returns at Armageddon at the seventh bowl. That's about the time that the harlot is going to be destroyed completely. The system will go down completely, but they're going to still be under the scenes trying to work their way back into power or whatever. But basically, they're just going to be a shadow of their former self. Okay, so what I want to do next is actually make a video. I'm going to do a separate video because I can see this one's already running into half an hour. And this one is going to be what happens before the rapture in addition to this stuff here. There's more stuff that's going to happen before the rapture. I'm going to also do a video on what happens immediately after the rapture. Okay, Jesus said that once these things start, they're going to quickly take place, swiftly take place. It's like labor pains, it's like birth pangs, one right on top of another. It's not over this leisurely 7-year period with, an Antichrist confirming a covenant and so on. That is not how this works. That isn't how it works. So there is no Antichrist confirming a covenant. He does not appear until this first seal is opened. And that's well into the time period that takes place before the abomination. It's not at the first seal is not opened at the same time that the Antichrist confirms a covenant. There is no Antichrist confirming a covenant. It's Jesus that confirmed God's covenant, brought in a new covenant, put aside the old way of doing things. I'd like to get into all of that for people who are sticklers for the Antichrist confirming a covenant, but I'm going to direct you to the Messiah in Daniel series, okay, where I dive deep into why it's not the Antichrist who confirms a covenant. Okay, and this is really important because that's the only verse, Daniel 9:27, where people get the idea of a 7-year tribulation. That is the only verse. And even Dr. Wavrud of Dallas Theological Seminary said there is no verse that says there's a 7-year tribulation or that there's 7 years of wrath. Okay, just so you know, that is not a hard and fast eschatological principle. Okay, and I have done numerous videos on why the tribulation is not the wrath of God and the tribulation does not last 7 years. There's times of tribulation for different groups of people, but none of it lasts 7 years. None of it. And actually, none of it really lasts 3.5 years either. So to summarize this video, Jesus was given by his Father a body of revelation that he's giving to us, to you and me, the people who are going to be alive at the end times, so that we could know the things that are going to quickly take place, that once they start, they're going to unfold rapidly. The other thing you have to know is that this group of people right here have come out in the open. Satan has brought this group out into the open for good or for bad, so that we can see what the agenda is down here. And they've said it over and over again, what their agenda is. We know their tactics. It's through sorcery, deception, brainwashing, and so on. Revelation 18 tells us their tactics. Once the beast begins to reign, he doesn't use a system. He doesn't use a cabal. He rules himself. In fact, Satan, the dragon, rules through the beast, and the false prophet is the spokesman for the beast, sort of like Moses and Aaron, where Aaron was the spokesman for Moses. Okay, that's sort of what we're looking at here. So that's going to be a totally separate kingdom, and the dividing line between these two satanic operations is right here at the 6th trumpet, the same day as the abomination of desolation, same day as the second woe. It's 1 hour in length when that woe happens, that 6th trumpet event happens, and it's the beast and his 10 kings buddies who destroy the harlot with fire, smoke, and sulfur. They're given authority for 1 hour to do this. The same hour, day, month, and year that the 6th trumpet happens. A 200 million man army basically destroying Europe. Okay, destroying Europe, and then any other place where this group of people has sort of planted themselves. And in 1 hour, you can have all the cities in Europe destroyed in a single hour. A single hour, right, with very little left. And that's the plan. That's the agenda, is Satan is going to have the harlot do the dirty work, and then when the beast comes on the scene as the false Messiah, he's going to look like the good guy who got rid of this entity over here. Okay. All right, so let me know what you think. In the next video, I'm going to tell you the events, specific events that are going to happen before the rapture. I'm going to tell you when the rapture is going to happen, if it happens this year. Okay, this is not unknowable stuff. People use the Bible verse, we don't know the day or the hour. And I always ask, of what? Of what? Because we're given all kinds of information in the book of Revelation so that we would know what is about to unfold. Okay, it's in the book. It's in Revelation. The specifics are in Revelation. They're not in the stars. They're not in our dreams. Okay, they're not in dreams or visions that we're given. They're right there in the Bible. It's in the Bible. Not to put down dreams and visions, I've had them myself, okay? But they don't stand anywhere near what the Word of God is in terms of truth and reliability, right? It's the Word of God. We put our faith in the Word of God, not in any dream or vision we've ever had, okay? Not even in what our understanding of the starry alignments are, what's going on in the heavens and the constellations. We've been given this book. Okay, and I just would really encourage watchmen, please rethink your understanding of Revelation. Don't think that everybody who's been teaching it for years actually knows what they're talking about. Okay, don't assume that. They're just people. They're just people, wanting to share what they know. But mostly they're sharing what was given to them, what they were taught. And we've got to be able to look at these things ourselves and see if these things are so. And it's what I did. And look, you don't have to agree with me. I don't even agree with me sometimes. Okay, I look at stuff that I talked about before and I go, you know what? That's not right. I was on track for something, but I didn't get it right. Okay, I've got some things I need to learn. And that's all okay because we're talking about a process here of figuring things out. And it's important that we have as many people as possible engaging in the process. Okay, engaging in the process, asking the questions. Okay, looking at the book of Revelation and making observations. Okay, I've gone on and on too long. The next video, we're going to look at what is going to happen before the rapture. So we'll see you then. Till then, I pray you'll have a very, very blessed day.